Thanks for tuning in to the Loser Kid Pinball Podcast. This is episode 158. I am Josh Roop. With me, my co-captain, as always,
Scott Larson.
And Scott, I've got to tell you, I want to say thank you because you let me borrow your Genie.
Yeah.
But I got it home and I turn it on and I'm like, why is it not working? And so I had to dig through the whole cabinet and I'm like, there's a plug down here. So I plug it in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I turn it on and it's not working again. And stuff zip tied together. I'm like, what the heck is going on? I had to find a jumper, all this crazy stuff, right? Like I finally had enough. And it reminded me that I'm so glad I buy new pinball machines from Flipping Out Pinball because there might be a little tweak here and there, but really it took like 24 hours to get your Genie up and going. And finally it's working. But even like once I got it up and running, the left flipper stuck up and I was like, you've got to be joking me. Come on. I can't catch a break. So if you want less headache, instead of buying older games, buy newer games like Flipping Out Pinball, like Metallica. And I think you have a little news for us too, right, Scott? You want to talk about that now, or you want to?
Yeah. So actually, I was able to secure myself a Metallica LE.
Ooh, nice.
So I am super excited. Unfortunately, it just got more expensive because they released the accessories. And so now I'm getting a topper and a shooter rod. And thankfully, the expression lights and the side armor are already included in the LE. But yes, so I am going to be blinging this up. And I need to figure out which one of these bad boys that I need to move because Metallica is going to get a featured spot.
Well, Wizard of Oz is not the same as the others, so
Wizard of Oz is not the same, but it's also like 500 pounds, and moving it out of my basement, it would be kind of a pain. So
it's easier to move a dead body.
Yeah, exactly. I may need to move, maybe Monster Bash. Maybe Monster Bash needs to sleep for a while.
Speaking of dead bodies, we have a man that now created Sparky, right, Scott?
Yeah.
Redefined it. Yep. And has done probably one of what has been considered the best Stern game ever made, which could be arguable now, but you know what? Metallica held the reins.
I'm still going with
years.
Metallica right now. Metallica certainly has stood the test of time.
Oh, yes. And it's not just Metallica, it's other legendary games, right? Like you think of Tron, you think of Avatar, X-Men, Iron Man, The Walking Dead. I mean, these are all top tier games that have redefined and
Rush right here.
Rush.
I mean, tournament play has been redefined by these games. They're amazing. We have none other than John Borg on joining us today. How you doing, John?
I'm doing great, guys. Pleasure to be on your show.
Okay, I am super excited because I have been wanting to get John Borg on for a while. And mainly because there are so many things about design that I want to talk about, especially with Rush, but I am going to secure myself and I want to focus on Metallica. So to start with, why don't you wind us way back in the day? And this is in, I would say, the golden era of Stern had just barely started. I would argue that AC/DC just came out and they were starting to really ramp up some of these legendary recent games. And John, tell me how the original Metallica came to be.
They told me, this was after AC/DC, they told me that they had procured a Metallica license. And I remember the first heart attack I had working on the game was I started working on the game on a Monday, and then they came and told me that James Hetfield was going to record speech for the game on Thursday. And I just found out I was working on it. So I had a heart attack. That was the first one. And then I sat down for a couple of days and stayed up really late at night. I was working 2 shifts, and I thought of everything that James Hetfield could possibly say in a pinball machine, and I wrote it down and put a doc together and got it ready for him on Thursday. Luckily, as the game progressed and started to form, there were other speech items, phrases, call-outs that I wanted. And then the rest of the band found out that Hetfield had recorded for the game. And then they said they all wanted to record too. So I re-recorded with the rest of the band. And I gave them some of even James' lines that were in his original script and then added a lot to it to fill holes and things that we needed. And it was great just to hear all 4 of the band members, call outs in the game. So then after that, I was looking at, the album covers, and talking with my team, and we decided that we were going to, I talked about Ride the Lightning, and the Ride the Lightning album cover just has a very small electric chair way off in the background. And I thought, boy, it'd be really cool to put an electric chair in the game and shock a character in the electric chair. So I first kind of saw it as like a real sinister kind of character, like Sin City,
Okay.
if you're familiar. And so then they told me that I was going to be working with a Metallica artist. So they sent Dirty Donnie our way, and I started to talk to Donnie, and I looked at Donnie's art, and I thought, wow, let's see what he does. He's gonna lay out a Sparky, or it wasn't even Sparky yet. He just actually sent the image of this character in an electric chair, and I go, wow, let's call him Sparky. And we didn't change a thing. It just looked fabulous. The only thing that was in his original drawing was it had a couple of like big light bulbs sticking up from behind the chair. That we ended up taking those out. But other than that, Sparky was just, Donnie did a doodle and sent it in, and I was like, I love it, and we just went that direction. Roadcase came about when they were thinking that, wow, all this cartoon drawn art, all this hand drawn art, we should do a photorealistic package, and we only made probably 150 of those. Those are actually less. Those are more rare than the LEs. Actually, there were fewer of them made. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So I started working on the electric chair, and then I came up with the idea to raise the grave marker out of the playfield for Master of Puppets. And then I had, so I started working on the toys, and then I sat and I was having a meeting one day with Lyman and Greg, and I was looking at the Injustice for All album cover, and I noticed the gavel, and I thought, and I was talking to the guys about it, and I go, what if we do a hammer that comes down and smashes the ball, and it goes underneath the playfield, and it goes into a death magnetic casket? And I was just kidding. And Lyman goes, yeah, that's pretty cool. So we put that down on the list, and then I started working on the layout, and I just started trying to shoehorn everything that we had thought up to put in the game. So that's how that all came about.
Did Stern approach them, or did they approach Stern? Do you know?
I believe they approached Stern, and I know the second time around, just recently, they had seen a Rush somewhere out in the wild,
Mm-hmm.
and they looked at the display and they saw the live concert footage, and they're like, we want that. So they contacted us about renewing the license and doing another run. So they gave us Reese Cooper to work with this time. They
Mm-hmm.
provided another artist, and he did a beautiful job on the new game. It's very sinister and very Metallica. Sparky, the Sparky image changed, mainly because the art is just as sinister as it is. I don't know that
Mm-hmm.
Sparky's image would have
Right.
worked
I
along with that.
agree with that. Yeah.
So people asked me in the beginning, when they first saw Sparky, they're like, how come he's a skeleton? I'm like, well, he's been sitting in the electric chair for 10 years getting shocked. All his flesh burned away. So, but yeah, the new Sparky with the UV effects, he looks really good. I'm really happy with the way everything turned out. Everything that I touched on the game, I wanted to make it, bigger, better, stronger, and faster.
Yeah.
Even from a aesthetic standpoint, and to like that three bank that was on the original game had reflective optos, and it was troublesome for some people until they were tweaked when we manufactured the game. But the new bank is our new three bank, and it's much more robust and probably weighs twice as much. So we just kept picking at it and just trying to make everything better on it and add a few things that we didn't get to put in the first time around. One of the things is the Metallica sign on the back panel. So you can, as you're shooting ramps, you actually just look forward and you can see where you're at. I used to shoot the ramps until I was blue in the face, until I heard the song, until I heard, Lady Justice start. It's hard to shoot a ramp and then get ready for the next ramp shot and look up at the display and see how many letters you've collected. So I wanted to do that and add that to the back panel. But we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun working on the game, and the extra features that we got to add, that was just bonus.
So I know you're a big rock and roll fan and whatnot,
Hmm.
and I assume you're a big fan of Metallica. Did
Oh
you
yeah.
kind of fangirl when you heard that the guys were coming in to do sound and whatnot?
They actually didn't come in. They did it. They did it from afar. So I actually didn't get to meet them. But just the fact that they were going to re-record, we re-recorded all the original speech plus all the new speech, and there were I probably added 400 or 500 lines to the script. Um, um, and then I worked with Eric Lieberman. He's a writer for Seth Meyers' show,
Oh,
so I
okay.
get to work with him, and then working with Raymond was great too. He just he knows the game like the back of his hand, and um, while he was still working on the last project, I just started writing rules for the new game. Metallica wanted us to put wanted us to give them some coverage for the two albums that have come out since 2013. So so I put the hardwired inserts on the playfield, and then I repurposed the pick targets for 72 seasons. And then the way you collect band members in the game now is a little bit different. You collect a band member by starting a multi-ball. The thing that nobody has seen in the game yet is the blackened feature. After you collect all four band members, the crank it up scoop lights, and you shoot in there, and you see the throw switch come up in the display, and Sparky comes into the view, and his eyes roll back and forth like he's crazy, and then he throws the switch, or he flips you the bird, and then he looks back at the camera as and then you see the four band members come up in the display, and there's just silhouettes of the four band members, and they've all got the helmets on, and they're all getting shocked. So Sparky gets to shock the band in the new model. There's also a family version of that where he gives you the devil horns instead of flipping you the bird. So
That probably makes it a little more challenging, considering that I would say Metallica has never been super R rated, but they've certainly been a little more edgy. So finding
yeah,
that balance of being able to get that into a home with young kids, and
right.
it's
Well, the game's going out in family mode now. I
yeah.
mean, it did ship in 17 and 13 with the adult mode turned on.
Well,
So
I may
they're
have to
all
wait
going
till
out
my
family mode. So if you want to change it, you can when you
yeah,
get it.
when my kids go to sleep, I may have to throw on the adult mode and check it
Yes,
out a little
right.
more.
Yeah. But
Okay, tell me more
there are,
about.
oh,
Oh,
I'm sorry. Go
go,
ahead.
keep going, keep going.
Oh no, there are a few call outs in the game that are a little risque. They're a little
Yeah,
not risque, but they're a little rough for young ears.
sure.
Yeah.
Now the layout now typically with vault editions, or now this is a remastered edition. Typically you try to fix things in the layout, but tweak it enough that it fixes things that were problematic in the past, but need to be revamped or worked. So what are some of the things that you did in this layout to make them function better?
One of the things that I did was I put a stainless steel up post in the middle of the orbit, because a lot of people would shoot the left orbit on their game, and it would spring off of the nylon post and come back down the orbit shot and feed back to the flipper, where it was supposed to just stop up there and feed into the top lanes. So that worked really well. When you shoot it really really hard, the ball just it stops, it dies, and it goes into the top lanes like it's supposed to. The drop target bank was the other thing that was kind of a little problematic on the original model, and that one is much more robust, and it's got a real opto switch instead of a reflective now. Um, but other than that, geometry wise, I was very pleased with the way everything was and played, and I really didn't make uh, any changes other than just updating things like the scoop is our newer design with a opto switch, where the old one had a micro switch. Um, we tweaked the assembly for the disappearing ball magnet a little bit. We changed the spring location, and um, I do believe that the new one is compatible in the old game, but the makeup is a little bit different. The spring is different. We tested it. It went like 300,000 cycles, and then the spring broke, and we had that happen a couple times. So we went and redesigned it and retested it, and it went 500,000 and kept going after that. We shut it off at 500K. So I think we lost audio again.
No, is that better?
Oh, that's better. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. What is going on with my stuff today? That's pretty crazy. The 500,000, so you went 500,000. You're like, I think it's going to
Yeah.
last now.
Oh, yeah. 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 We had just two kickers firing balls up to that magnet, stopping them, pulling them underneath, and popping back up and releasing the ball back to a kicker, and just bam, 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 bam.
Well, and this
So
game feels like shoots a little smoother now too. Was it, you also
I,
did something
I'm
to the
not really sure.
ramps?
I'm not really sure what the reason is for that. Because the geometry is roughly all the same. But I feel like I don't know, the shot going into the grave marker to knock down the drop target seems easier to me. Now,
Yeah.
my game, I've been playing with the 2013 code. So after I knock down my drop targets, I have to go in and hit the grave marker twice for it to stop the ball. So in 17, I think Lyman changed it. So you just first time in, when you hit the grave marker, it stops the ball and starts the multi ball. But that shot seems to feel easier. The main thing I did was I had to pull the back panel in a half an inch because we use it as a straightener for the back of the playfield now, where we used to put a wood rail like the old wood rails that go up and down the sides of your game.
Yeah.
Um, we used to mount the back panel to the back of the game, mount it to the back of the playfield and that wood rail. So we moved the back panel in years ago, so I had to do that to the game. So that actually made I had to actually shorten the ramps each by a half an inch. So I brought everything back in. The entrances are still in the same spot in relation to the flippers, but the back, they're actually a half an inch shorter than the original ones.
Does that affect the speed of it? Like the ball comes back to you at all?
Not much, not noticeable.
Not
Yeah,
enough.
and they both still feel the same. They're both still nice and smooth. Um, so yeah.
And now we have more music on these. So tell me how you selected or the band selected which songs you're going to integrate more into them and how that affects
The
gameplay.
band selected them, and the gameplay. I didn't want to interrupt the original gameplay that much, but
Hmm.
the 72 seasons and the hardwired feature, they just kind of come into play and just blend in with everything else very nicely. Kind of like Injustice for All does. You start Injustice for All and you're playing that, you might be, and then go into a multi-ball or something like that. So those other features kind of work similar to the way that one does. Um, and so that worked out really well. And they're both pretty lucrative. Like when you go into 72 seasons, if you start trying to nail spinners, it ups the value of the toy you're going to collect. And then for every one of the pick targets you hit, you score that value. So say the first one you hit a spinner and it takes it up to like, half a mil or something like that. You collect that first target, you hit a spinner or a couple more spinners after that. And then now you're looking at millions of points. And then you collect those off the remaining targets that are still lit. Um, uh, yeah, that feature is that's a lot of fun to play. It's not in your face all the time. You have to get 72 switch closures to start it. Um, but the hardwired feature, same thing. It plays pretty much, along with the rest of the game. It blends in nicely and it's not stepping on anything.
So with the guitar picks, because you said you switched out, maybe not the guitar picks, the in lanes, has that always been a ball save? Because I noticed when we were playing at Stern, it was a ball save, but I don't remember that on the original
Oh yeah,
game.
It was a special on the original model. They were red
Gotcha.
red outlane specials. Yeah, so we changed them to ball saves and called them resurrection. So you are resurrected when you drain.
Okay.
That does make the game easier to play, and it gives you a little more life.
Well, and the reason behind it too, you guys said no one really goes for specials anymore. That's more of like a 70s,
Right.
80s term.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is kind of sad. I like special one lit, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's settings to change that because right now, currently, when you light resurrection, the outlanes, if you hit one of them and it saves your ball, the other one remains lit. Um, so there's settings in the game you can make that harder if you want. Like when you collect one, they're both gone. They both go out. Um,
Gotcha.
but yeah, it does feel like our game time and our ball time and our game time is good. But I think a game should play a little longer. Because
Yeah.
I mean, some games are so hard sometimes it just irritates me, and I'll just go play something else because I can play something else for a while. But Metallica's pretty player friendly.
Yeah, which is funny because like it always felt like such a brutal game before, and granted, it's still not like the easiest game to play, but
Mhm.
it's taken a little the edge off. You don't feel like you're white knuckling the game the whole
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yes,
Well, it for me, I was always surprised when people talked about Iron Man being so hard, and I'm like, it's hard until
until you,
like it's
yeah, I know
until
exactly.
you get it dialed into your brain, and then it feels a lot more familiar. And I was able to get long when I had my Iron Man. I was able to get some long ball times to keep it going, and it's I would argue it's probably similar with Metallica that um, because people are familiar with Metallica because it's been around for 11 years,
Mhm.
that they're going to have a connection instantly with this game, and it's going to be a it's a new reinvigorated version of a classic favorite that they've
Yeah,
had.
yes.
What was your favorite thing to add to this game?
Um, Adding the UV was really cool. The the extra play features that all came together really nice. With kind of like a mini wizard mode with blackened at the end of it. Um, and the game had a lot of rules to begin with, so to just be able to add a few more it was really cool, a lot of fun. I've had some people ask me if those rules can be, if we're gonna code them and do an update for the old game, but you don't have any of those inserts on the playfield, so you really can't.
Right. So, yeah. So it's kind of hard to retrofit in
Right.
some ways. Yeah.
Yes,
So
So they all have to buy the new one apparently.
they have to.
so John, I
I'm
know
sorry. I know.
it,
I
it
know. I know a
go.
person that has a road case game, and they have a lot of games in their house, and they add it onto their house to make their game room bigger. Um, they have a road case in their living room to the left of their fireplace, and then they've got another game on the right side. And they bought a Metallica LE to put on the right side, so they've got a Metallica Pinball living room.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's in stereo.
Hmm. Well, I've seen
That's
people that have
awesome.
had like all the Elviras in their collection, side by side.
Hmm.
And a lot of people are putting their Metallica in their game room with their new Metallica. You know, Vice versa.
So I don't know if you can talk to this or not, but if you look at, it's been about 30 months between when Rush was released and Metallica released. It usually
Mhm.
takes 18 months to do a a game itself from scratch to end. And with this
Uh-huh.
being a remastered, I would assume there's a little less development time. Can you kind of speak to what happened between that time?
Yeah, we talked about that. Development time was just about the same as a normal game. Just
Oh
relaying out
wow.
everything that had to be relayed out on the playfield and adding lights and making new light boards, um, new art, and just following all that and seeing all that stuff through. It was just like doing a full blown game. But I did two games after Rush, and one of them I spent about 5 or 6 months on. We ended up not procuring the license for it, so they were trying to do a package deal, and I believe, and it didn't go through. So I had to just take you know 5 months worth of work and just push it off to the side and go, okay, what's next?
Save it. Yeah. Well, I guess that's the business,
Right,
right? Yeah. You never know where it's going to
you
be.
never know. So,
Yeah.
but I did make
And
some new toys for that game that'll surface in the future on something else somewhere. So,
now you're also notorious for being of the designers, one that actually could go into a room and build it yourself because you have that knowledge. How does that integrate into like approaching a game? Like when you get a game and you're like, okay, I I want this game to feel this way. I want it to go this way. How does that integrate into your design layout? What you want to put in a game? Lead me through that process.
oh wow, goodness. Are we editing? Are we editing this at all?
Yeah,
We
we
can
can.
edit.
And
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, can you read me that question again? I'm kind of a little
Okay.
lost at what you're asking me.
Okay. So when you get a
Hmm.
license and you approach designing the game for it,
Hmm.
what is your process when you think of the license? Because
Um,
uh, each layout is a little different and it flows differently. And so how do you make that license into the game?
I start with what I think is going to be the focal point or the coolest thing in the game. Like for Metallica, for instance, the electric chair was going to be the big thing. Um, I just look at what toys or toy I'm going to put in a game. Focal point. Main mechanical feature, and then I just build around that. And I'll lay these mechanisms in places on the playfield and try to plan shots around them. Um, it's a crazy puzzle, and when I'm looking at it in the beginning, it's a top view of the playfield, and I'm looking at everything that's on the top and the bottom of the game at the same time, so that when I build the thing, nothing's crashing into each other. um, it's crazy. I mean, sometimes your eyes pop out of your head when you're looking at the layout going, wow. Trying to remember exactly what everything is, because the layers, I work in layers too. So rails are a certain color, inserts are a certain color, trap lines are a certain color, and then I break down all my major assemblies after I've laid out the top view with all the spotting and motors and switches and whatever's going on it, and I'll take that, and then I just make like a single entity out of it, and then I can take it and place it and move it around in the playfield. Um, a lot easier than if you're drawing individual lines and circles and trying to move a whole big group of something somewhere else. If like if I want to move a lane over, if I want to open up a lane, a quarter inch or something, I'll just take the two flat rails, pull them off the drawing, update them, and then restore them. And then the ones that are in my drawing and the ones that are in another a block that shows like all the rails that are on the game, it just updates all that stuff. Um, it's kind of like if I draw a mechanism, say I draw Sparky in his electric chair, and I do all the line work and stuff like that. Then I go and I put a fence around it and I make it a single entity, so I can take and move it wherever I want instead of having to move 2 or 3 thousand lines. But yeah, as far as how I go about making a game, I look at the mechanisms, and then I'll place a mechanism somewhere where I think it should be, and then I pretty much build the game and lay out shots around it.
So, how was it different making the original Metallica versus this? And was it kind of a pain to transfer everything over from 2013 to 2024?
No, and I talked to Raymond about that, because he had to make the game function on the Spike system, and it was originally a SAM game, and he said it was kind of like um, he described it as like converting Spanish to English. Some of the rules are different. Punctuations are different and whatnot, and he said that was kind of what it was like for him. As far as myself, I laid out all the rails and everything, and I started pulling things off of the old layout and placing them, in a on a fresh playfield layout, if you will. And then there were things that we don't do anymore, like rails, flat rails that make up your lanes in your game. We don't put mounting feet on radiuses any longer because it's a little harder to hold. So Metallica had mounting feet on the corners on the radii on the orbit flat rail. So I had to change all that. So I just had to apply standards, some of the new standards to the layout. It was 10 years ago, so stuff changes. Every 10 years, I look. I've been around for a long time, and every 10 years, the industry just makes like a leap. The games that we're making now compared to in the '90s, as far as the software and just even the makeup of the game, it's amazing.
Well, we were talking earlier too. You started out in the 80s at Gottlieb, so it's
Yeah.
definitely you've been through a couple decades in this
Yes. Uh-huh.
industry.
Yeah. Yeah. I worked for Premier Gottlieb for 3 years. And in 1990, I was hired by Data East, and they had just had Simpsons started on the line when I started to work
Mm-hmm.
for Data East. So,
And you probably now was Guns N' Roses your first like experience with working with a band
oh
for
yeah,
a layout? And this is the old version, right? I mean, this is
yeah.
the original, the
Mm-hmm.
with the GNR
GNR
ramps.
ramps. Yeah, some people didn't know about that. That was something.
Are you
Yeah,
serious?
no, that was something that Slash. He said, "Hey, can you make a ramp look like a G and another one look like an R?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I could do whatever you want. You're the boss." Yeah, so it was kind of cool when we did that game. Slash came out and hung out at the factory. He got there about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and hung out with us, and we were there till midnight working. Um, we were passing around a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I can't drink bourbon or whiskey or anything like that. If it was tequila, I would have been good with it. But we were walking around, passing around a bottle of Jack Daniels and stuff like that, and it ended up being emptied, and the programmer Neil Falconer had the bottle, and when he retired, he brought it up and handed it to me. So I
Oh,
have that bottle.
you had
Yeah,
the OG,
yep.
the slash Jack bourbon
The
bottle.
Slash Jack Daniels bottle. Yes.
Jack
Yeah.
Daniels,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, yeah, but that was a real interesting project to work on, and that was definitely first experience working with a rock and roll band.
Well,
Hmm.
speaking
So,
of Scott's ringtone that was Star Wars, how crazy was
Yeah.
it like the first game you get to design at Data East was Star Wars?
was Star Wars. Started out as Jurassic. Well, it wasn't even Jurassic Park. When I first started to work there, Joe Kamenko asked me to make a. He goes, start thinking dinosaurs. He goes, I want a dinosaur, to move around and do stuff and eat a ball. So I made this mechanism. I took a pretty good sized Godzilla model, roto molded plastic, and I started laying out this. I laid it out, and then I started laying out this mechanism around it and in it, and I made it throw pinballs like you saw later on the Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. And then I made it pivot back and forth, and I put a magnet way in the back of its mouth, and it bent over, and it leaned down to the playfield, and it sucked the ball off a magnet on the playfield into its mouth, and then it would go back up, and it would deposit it into a pit. So I started working on that, and then I guess Jurassic Park then came about maybe months later. So I was getting pretty far into this dinosaur layout, and Joe came to me and told me that they were making a movie. Spielberg was making a movie called Jurassic Park about dinosaurs, but he said he really wanted to do the game, and he asked me to change my game into Star Wars. And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Ah." Um, so so I took the dinosaur out and I put the Death Star in its place, and then I wanted R2D2 in the game, so I put him over on the other side and relayed out a lot of the line work and stuff like that. But so that's how that came about. And I remember
Oh
some
wow.
people came to me and said, Star Wars, gosh, who's going to remember that? And I'm like, a lot of people are going to remember that. And we sold a lot of it too. I mean,
Oh,
it was the
yeah.
right game at the right time. Dot Matrix was just starting to come into play and starting to fill in arcades and outdate, LED display games, alphanumerics, um, and we, that game and Lethal Weapon 3, we sold tons of both of those games. But yeah,
So
that was
wait, where was the dinosaur supposed to be on Star Wars? I've got it pulled up.
no, the dinosaur was part of a dinosaur game that I was working on, and then
Oh, gotcha.
and then they swapped themes on me. And they're like, "You want
Uh,
to do Star Wars?" And I'm like, "Sure, certainly,
They said I think this will sell a lot of
yeah."
games. Yeah. Well, that was always the key with Data East and then Stern is that was really when people started discovering
Hmm.
that licensing made a huge difference on the
Oh yeah.
marketability of a
Well,
game.
you can call a distributor and say, "Hey, I got Jurassic Park coming," or "I've
Yeah,
got you know, monkeying around coming." And, if
yeah,
you give them a non-licensed theme, they want samples and they want to test it before they place orders. But if you tell them
yeah.
you have Star Wars coming, they're like, "Yeah, I'll take a couple containers."
Hmm.
so
So,
with you working So it says on the notes that you did work on Jurassic Park. Did you happen to work on Jurassic Park?
I did some work on Jurassic Park, and then later on, I did the Lost World game.
Can I ask, and maybe this is like forbidden territory, maybe because it's so old it doesn't really matter anymore. Is there a reason Jurassic Park is very similar to Whirlwind for playfield?
Whirlwind?
Yeah,
Really?
You mean
Really?
Data East Jurassic Park?
yeah. Data East Jurassic Park's layout's very similar.
I think it looks more like Funhouse than Whirlwind. I mean, think about it. You got the dinosaur from a side flipper shot on the one side. You got Rudy on the left.
That's true.
Yeah.
Vice versa.
Okay.
I thought it looked a little more like Funhouse. Now I've never even heard anybody say it looked like Whirlwind. I love
Maybe
that.
it's because it's the
I love
two
that
holes
game.
on the left side, like you have on Whirlwind with the shelter or whatnot,
Oh yeah, that's possible. Yeah,
with
yeah,
the C and the A shot.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, all right.
Ramp entrance is a little the same.
It has flippers. It has
It has
balls.
balls. It has balls. Round spheres that roll around.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I never even heard anybody say that before. But I heard a couple people say, "Wow, it looks kind of like Funhouse."
Yeah, I can see that too. Like Funhouse and Whirlwind had a baby.
I like how some people they'll take a plan view of somebody's playfield, and then they'll superimpose
the
another one
overlay
over the top of it and show that the shot lanes are all in the same spot.
Okay, but if you have, especially if you have a 2 flipper game,
You
realistically
right.
have 7, maybe 8 shots.
Yeah.
And so of course that's what you're going to have if you're if you have a 2 flipper game. If you have a 3rd flipper, okay, but
and if you put in 9 shots, it's going to be really, really, really challenging.
Yeah. But and actually, I would say American Pinball got into that with Houdini when they tried to cram too many shots.
I actually like that game. I like tight shots. Like Rush is a shooter's game.
Yeah. Well, Rush, I still in many ways I love the game, and sometimes I want to take a sledgehammer to it because it is such a buster on me. Okay, I do have a question. Typically, on so many of your games, there is typically a double in lane on one side.
Yeah.
Why? Like, what's the thought process?
It's
on
a
that?
catcher's mitt. When I'm playing a normal standard bottom, and the ball gets over near the sides, I feel like I'm in peril and I'm freaking out. And when I got that big opening and I got 2 lanes on the one side, I feel like ball gets over there. I'm really not that worried about it.
Okay, because I am really good at bouncing it on the post between the 2 in lanes and going to the out lane. Like that is if I have a special talent in pinball, that is my talent.
It to the out lane, you got to shake it back into the game.
Okay, you're overestimating my ability to play.
Everybody used to, I was getting teased a little bit about being what people call Borg.
Yep.
And I saw a girl in an arcade one night, and she had a T-shirt, and it showed the top view of the 2 return lanes, and the out lane showed the ball bouncing out with an arrow following it out the out lane. So in the last couple of games, I've actually put rubber there on that wire form that you were getting Borged on to give you a sporting chance to shake it.
Okay.
Metallica, I was playing Metallica for a while with the outlane posts all the way down, and it was playing a little bit too long, especially with the ball saves, that we've added to the game.
I could see that.
So I did move them into the upper position. But it's not really, it doesn't feel, I don't feel like it's killing me, and just like Iron Man, if I play Iron Man, I play 10 games, it killed like 5 or 6 of them. But then when you get in the zone, you just can't be stopped, and you get to Jericho and the hair goes up on the back of your neck. Same thing with Metallica. I'm getting to crank it up a lot easier now, I've noticed. So
yeah, I was going to say when we were there at Stern, I got to crank it up almost every game I played. But then again, Ray Day said that you guys had it set a little easy, so that way we could explore the features.
Yeah,
you had rubber bands on the out.
We should have turned extra ball off at Expo because people were waiting. People were waiting. So I think that's the other thing. People were waiting so long to play that game. When they finally got their hands on it, they wanted to have the best game they could have.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it played long at the show.
Yeah.
I watched some of the video.
No, it's
Guy comes up, he scores 5 million on his first ball, then he scores 50 on his second ball, and then he scores like 300 on his third ball. It just lit it up.
yeah.
So,
And then you have guys behind him like they're poking him in the back.
right.
Hey, get off the game.
Can I play now?
We all want a chance.
Okay. Tell me about the topper.
Mhm.
Into like, how did the topper come about? And tell me about it. I've always said, and Josh has said it too, the game changer is with expression lights and making it more an immersive experience, because music and light shows, and that is the concert experience right there. So tell me about integrating that into this game.
I had a couple of plans for Topper. The band actually wanted a Metallica beacon on top of their game. So I have a 7-inch height restriction. Can't go over 7 inches. Otherwise, some of you folks won't be able to get it in your basement. I have a 7-foot ceiling in my basement, so I have no toppers on my games. But I have a height restriction. So I laid out the Metallica logo, and I actually tried to make it a little bigger than the production model. And I cut off the bottom of the M and the A, and where it sits on the game from player perspective. If you looked up at it, you could see the logo, but I made the logo bigger, cutting off the bottom of the M and the A. But we were afraid to show that to licensing, because we were kind of like playing with their logo. So I downsized it a little bit and got the whole logo on the topper, and went and made it like that. And that's the letters are, the M and the A are they're this big, and I've got a 7-inch height, so I just laid that all in there, and then we came up with the design for the topper. It's all RGB. There's 4 lights that are under the Metallica logo that light up when you collect your band members. Each one of those lights represents one of the band members, so you can look up there and see what your progress is, as well as on the playfield between the flippers.
And it also has does it have an extra mode with the topper, or is there?
We're kind of
considering
that, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, because I know that is like at least a visual representation of your progress in multi-ball or something like that. So that does help.
Yeah, and it also tells you when you're getting to Injustice for All, Lady Justice.
Mm-hmm.
So you've made a ton of band pins. You've had Metallica, Rush, Aerosmith, Kiss. I'm trying to think. GNR. Who's been your favorite one? Which band are you most partial to out of all these?
Like to listen or to work with? What's your question,
both.
Josh?
That's a trick question.
Oh, okay.
No, I love Rush. Rush is musically, they're probably the most amazing band on the planet. Metallica is just so hard driving and so cool. They're amazing. Guns N' Roses is awesome. Slash is a really super nice guy. He was great working with him through the whole project. I've enjoyed working on all of them. I can't say, gosh, if you put Metallica and Rush together, 2 totally different types of music.
Which
one do you like better?
Different bands.
They're both just top notch. They're both 10s. They're both in my top 2 or 3 favorite bands of all time. So
it also depends on what mood you're in. There's sometimes I'm in the mood to listen to Metallica. Other times I'm in the mood to listen to Rush. And you can't compare La Via Strangiato with Ride the Lightning. It's a totally different feel.
Now, I remember when we first released Rush, people were like, I've heard Limelight and Tom Sawyer, but I don't know anything else that these guys do that's any good. They never played their
and that's probably fair.
songs on the radio. So now that people have got the game, I have people writing to me saying, Cygnus X1 is the coolest song I've ever heard in my whole life. And I'm like, yeah, well, there's 2 of them. There's one on Hemispheres, and there's
2 albums.
And there's one on Farewell to Kings. So I think people that were pinball fans became Rush fans, and I think there's a lot of people that were Rush fans that have now become pinball fans. We have people, calling us up going, hey, what else do you have? So you know how it goes. You buy one
Yep.
game, then you have three, then you have five, then you move one out, you buy two or three more, and then you look just like, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Then you're putting
Well, okay.
an addition on your house.
I've considered it, by the
Yes,
way.
you have.
Yeah, I actually did run into a random guy on a cruise, and we were in like a trivia night, and it ended up that we both were big Rush fans, and he had a Rush pinball machine
Oh
too.
yeah. Oh,
That's funny.
Yeah, and so
that's awesome.
so it's like you find a niche, and finding out like these little fingers into these subgroups that you didn't really have an in with,
Mhm.
but having like especially a band, because any band has a loyal following.
Yes.
So you're going to get a lot of crossover with people who are interested.
Mhm.
So am I to assume that this Metallica Remastered has been an exceptionally good seller?
Yes, I think so. We'll find out when we do re-releases. I think we only made 500 LEs. I think if we made 1,000, they'd all be sold.
Mm-hmm.
The premium is gorgeous. I'm going premium, and I'm gonna put the expression lights in it, and somehow I think one of those prototype LED back glasses is going to find its way into it. We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll
probably.
see.
I bet you know a guy,
I
right?
know a guy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So
it's a very beautiful game, and it's very well deserving of like one of the top Stern games ever made. And it just, I was happy to see a remaster so well received. If I remember correctly, when we were talking to some of the distributors, they said they had like 80% of their stock sold out before the game was
Mm-hmm.
even revealed. But then again, they've already seen the game, but it's like, how it's going to play. All they got to see is the cherry. So,
right.
Well, okay, but the challenge is because in some of these games, people are like, "Well, I already have one," and so the fact that people who are so familiar with this and are such fans of the game see the new skin on it and say, "I don't care if I love the game and I already own one. I'm going to have another one."
Yep.
And that tells me that you guys did such a good job of modernizing an already modern pin and taking it to the next level.
Yeah. Some people buy a pro and then they end up liking the game, and then later they go and buy a premium, or an
Yeah.
LE or something like that. So there's that too.
if you could go
I
back in your catalog and pick any game, doesn't matter if it's from Gottlieb or Data East, what one would you want to give the remastered treatment?
Tales from the Crypt.
Oh,
Nice.
Yeah, I would probably do Tales again. I think that would be a lot of fun. Occasionally,
that would be a lot of fun, especially with movie clips or TV show
yeah,
clips.
yeah. The game was kind of shy on, we didn't really follow the movies all that much when we made that game. It was just entertaining. The features that were in it. And there were so many of them, and the ball was all over. With all crazy wire ramps and the 180 ramp, and uh, but it would be cool to redo that and then get Kassir back in the sound booth again and have him do more speech, because he was just fabulous. I mean, he did so much ad libbing when he recorded the first time for it, and I still once in a while I'll send him a note on Facebook. Um, you know, I went to an arcade and the guy took a picture of me. He had a Tales from the Crypt on the floor. He goes, "I got to get a picture of you next to the Tales," and then he sent me the photo, and then I forwarded it to Kassir, and I talked to him. I hadn't talked to him in like 20 years, and then all of
Mm-hmm.
a sudden I just popped up and started chatting with him on Facebook. He's a very nice guy. I'm sure he'd be glad to do it again. So
And it is a very unique game. It's something that's it's very cool.
mhm. I played that game once at a tournament, and on ball one I made it to the Crypt Jam. I was just unstoppable. That was so much fun. Somewhere in New York, I was playing 100 years ago. Gosh,
The
what was
time
that? 93, 94? I think that game
90,
came out.
it says here on
Wow.
Pinside 93.
93, yeah.
Good criminy. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yep. Yeah.
How many games have you been lead designer on?
You know
Do you
what?
have any
I
idea?
made a list when I went to Expo. I gave a seminar and talked about all the games I worked on from the time I started at Gottlieb to present.
Mm-hmm.
And there were some of them that I just kind of picked at a little bit or helped somebody else on. And I made up a list, and there were 60. I think there were 60. So somewhere in the 50s. Um, I have to look at that list and narrow it down, to see which ones, how many I was actual lead on. But it's a lot of games. It makes me tired just looking at the list. um, but gosh, a lot of fun. I mean, I'm so lucky to. I just got into this business by luck. I wasn't trying to get in. Um, I was a draftsman, mechanical engineer, and I was working at a company that made injection molds. So I was trying to get into mold design, not the actual piece parts, but the molds that make them, and designing that. And then one day I was looking for something different, and just looking around at what might be available out there. And I saw an ad in the Tribune, and it was about the size of a postage stamp, and it said mechanical engineer needed, and it had a phone number underneath it. So just for grins, I called it. This guy answers the phone, and I'm talking to him, and they said, come on down for an interview, da 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 da. They gave me the address. So I walk into this building, and it was Premier Technology, and they were in Bensonville at the time. And I walk in, and I'm sitting in the lobby, and there's pinball back glasses, surrounding the perimeter of the room up by the ceiling. And I'm like, wow, this is a pinball company. How cool is that? And they walked me around and walked me through the factory. I'm like, wow, this is so cool. And I played pinball. I was a pinball player. I liked a lot of games and video games. Like in the mid '80s and stuff. I was always, me and my friends were always at the arcade playing pinball and video games and stuff like that. So they invite me in for an interview. I interview. I see the plant. I was offered another job for a hydraulics manufacturer for more money per year, and I took the job in pinball because I thought it'd be more fun because I'm going to be working with plastic piece parts and sheet metal and and vacuum forming and all kinds of stuff. And that's what I was studying. And I'm like, this would be perfect. And so
Mm-hmm.
I ended up taking it, and then I just got hooked on it. Um, it's
I,
I got the sickness.
I would argue as a mechanical engineer. So that's my major too, by the way. That's what I studied in
Uh huh.
college. And that would be the dream job for a mechanical engineer, is to work on a pinball machine,
Making
because
gadgets and
exactly, it takes everything that you have worked on, but it's also fun. You're not working on like
yeah.
a transmission shaft or
When I
something
hear
like that.
people
Yeah.
complain, I'm like, we could be making taillights for cars here.
Yep.
I mean, wow, look at this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's a blast. It's a lot of fun. It's really hard. I mean, anybody who thinks it's easy, it's not. I mean, I've had people, say, oh, how come you didn't do this or how come you didn't do that? And I'm like, some of those people, I want to just send them a piece of plywood and tell them to, come back and
Good
see me
luck.
in 6 months. I want to see
Yeah.
what you got. So, um, but yeah, everything nowadays is, if you're an artist and you make a painting, people are going to critique it. People are going to love it. And that's what I do. So I have pretty thick skin. Sometimes I get I get a little perturbed. Like when Rush released, I had some guy. The first
Hmm.
post on my Facebook page was some guy. He wrote, he goes, hey Borg, he goes, why do you want to do about a game about a bunch of guys that never got any? And I was like, are you freaking kidding me? I wrote him back. I sent him a big emoji of like a troll, and I just left it at that. Those guys, I remember seeing an interview with Gene Simmons, and he said that they were touring with Rush, and he said he had 6 girls wait outside of his room after the concert. And these guys, Rush could have had the same exact thing. And he said those guys were in their room practicing for songs for their next album. They were hearing stuff that was going to be coming on there, just them jamming, in their room. They that's why they're musically 100 times better.
Yeah.
Shh, I can't say
Yeah. Yeah.
that. have
What?
Gene coming.
Gene
Have Gene
Simmons?
coming after me. Um,
Yeah. No.
no,
Okay.
Rush.
Okay.
Rush is just they're they're three of probably the most amazing musicians on the planet, and they do
Oh yeah.
really well
Yeah.
together.
Yep.
I would argue, I don't even think Gene Simmons would counteract that, because if you look at Gene Simmons, there's I'm summarizing a quote, but he talked about in the 70s, everybody wanted to be the next Led Zeppelin.
Mhm.
I wanted to be the next Coca-Cola.
Oh, interesting.
And so if you look at everything Kiss has
He
done,
is.
it is about brand
Mhm.
and
Oh, yeah.
marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they took it to the next level on that.
Gene Simmons is brilliant.
Yeah. He's a brilliant business guy.
Everything.
And
You can buy coasters and coffee cups, and you can buy decals for your car. You can buy masks,
Coffins actually too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Kiss coffin. Yeah, that was
Yeah. Anything. So
Crazy.
yeah.
No, I don't know. I don't know many people that have musicians that have looked at Rush and be like, I can play better than that. They're just they're on a level of their own.
A musician's band, actually.
Yeah.
okay. I can't remember who it was, but it was actually a guy in a band, and I'm sure someone will send me some Rush fan will tell me, but it was a guy who was like, they were going to play a Rush song and he was going to play Geddy's part. And he said, I thought I could just, learn it in an hour or something like that. And he's like, a day or two later, I was barely getting it down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, that's just that's the level that Geddy Lee took. He played lead bass and singing at the same time. I mean, that's not easy.
Not easy.
Not at all.
Yeah.
That's
he's holding his
insane.
bass, he's playing keyboard, and then he's singing. That's just amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Borg
I can't play and sing at the same time.
I can't either.
I can't just do it.
Hey,
I just can't.
I did though. I did just start retaking guitar lessons. So I'm trying to build up the calluses on my fingers.
Oh,
My fingers are all tingly and numb right now.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. After a while, they get to be like rocks.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, even did you listen to Geddy Lee's autobiography?
Yes.
Yeah, and the part where he talked about his fingers have so much calluses on them that he can take a pin and put them in his finger, and it doesn't he doesn't feel it.
Yeah.
I had a little accident and I smashed my index finger, like I was telling you guys about earlier, and so I just started playing maybe 3 weeks ago, and my index finger hurts. I mean, it hurts when I play. I mean, I'm building that callus back up again. I can play for 10 minutes, and I'm like, you know.
What do you play? What do you like to play?
I have a Strat. I like to play Rush. I like some Zeppelin stuff. I make up a lot of my own stuff. Once in a while, I'll be sitting around playing it, at 10 o'clock, midnight, or something like that, and I'll post a YouTube video. So I'm not great. I can entertain for probably about a half an hour, 45 minutes, and then I'm about done. But it's a lot of fun. It's fun to play.
It is. I'd recommend to anyone to pick up a guitar and start learning, because there's so many easy avenues to do it now too. I mean, between musician and just there's so many ways to learn guitar now. There's there's no excuse not to.
Yeah, just the YouTube videos, with them showing you note by note, and the tab that's available now, compared to how it was 30 years ago, where you just had to just figure it out, and listen, and try to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, Josh was able to work out who's the guitar builder. So we're both getting guitars that have the play field cut out. So mine's going to be Silver Ball Mania, and you got Earthshaker, right?
Yep,
Josh?
I did. Sithar Guitars. It's the same guy that makes all of Ed Robertson's guitars.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw Ed's guitars. It's got LED lights that light up while he's playing it. It's cool.
Yep, he just got that Dolly Parton. I guess he got a Dolly Parton telly. It's pretty cool looking.
Really? Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I'll have to write him and tell him to send me a bit.
Any chance, John, that your next game is a Dolly Parton remastered?
Actually, I shouldn't be telling you guys this, but I'm going to start working on Golden Pond. No, I'm just kidding. That's what I usually tell somebody will write me and say, hey, I won't tell anybody, but what are you working on? I'm like, I'm working on Golden Pond. Or I'll say, like Saved by the Bell. You have this
Yeah. Oh, geez.
Screech LE.
Yeah.
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 Family Matters.
Family Matters. Maud.
geez.
Then Maud's coming out next year.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's the Golden Girls before Golden Girls. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
We're going old school. We're going to go Quantum Leap.
We're going way back to the 70s.
Right. Yes.
Hey, Brady Bunch. We could do a Brady
Oh,
Bunch
yes.
one. And the best thing, the best thing is you get a call out. Sure, Jan.
Yeah.
That would be hilarious. You'd have to give like some theme that's just so ridiculous. The next day it's on Pinside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, guess what?
Yeah. Psst.
Borg's doing Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap. Yeah.
Cool. We appreciate you coming on and talking Metallica with us, Borg. Is there anything that you don't feel like we've asked that you've wanted to talk about?
I'll probably think about it in an hour and I'll go, oh yeah, talked about that. No, I think we did a pretty good job of covering it.
Cool.
So
yeah, thank you so much. I really have been looking forward to this interview for a few years. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys.
We appreciate your time.
Yeah. My pleasure.
Well, if you want someone to get a hold of you, how do they get a hold of you, John?
Facebook and Facebook Messenger is usually the best, good place to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
So, I don't want my email at work to overflood.
We'll cut that out so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
and your social security number and your personal cell phone number. Yeah.
Yeah. I had somebody. I had a scammer call me on the phone one day, and he was asking for, my taxes are way behind. I owe $20,000. If you give us your credit card, we can take care of it right now, and you won't, you won't have to worry about being arrested. And I was like, oh, geez, hold on a second. Let me get my card. And then I kept reading them, 17 numbers, I gave him an extra number. He's like, okay. I'm like, 4, 5, 8, 3, 2, 6. Reading the numbers real slow. And I gave him an extra number. He's like, that's too many numbers, sir.
Yeah.
I'm like, could you read that back to me? So
Yeah, no, actually, I did the same thing. I did the same thing one time, and I was talking to this guy for like 30 minutes, saying I was super concerned, and I kept giving him like a wrong credit card, and finally he said, "This does not appear to be a valid credit card." Yes. And I said, "This does not appear to be a valid offer."
Yes. Yeah, I had one.
Then I think he swore at me and hung up.
I had a guy. He swore at me, and he told me that he was going to blank my wife. And I told him, I go, I'm not married. I go, what's your wife look like? And then he didn't click. He hung up on me. I'm not married. So, yeah.
Nice.
That's awesome. If you want to get a hold of us, we are loserkidpinballpodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube. Subscribe, all that jazz. Yeah, Scott, what do you got for us? Send us off.
And I'll probably
go buy Metallica.
I'll probably see you guys at the factory next time you come in.